I hope that made sense.
And that passion for teaching, as it was funneled into the public sector, into public education, or that passion for teaching as it was funneled into tutoring or into any other realm of activity, those realms of activity are in and of themselves boundaries, right? And so the angst that might arise when one considers, well, what is my income for this level of work? There can be that anxiety that arises because of that. I call it pain, but anxiety might be a better, more general term. Yeah. So, thank you, Pam. I guess my my point was that teaching in and of itself, regardless of the channel through which it is practiced, the passion for teaching is something that if you can dissolve the channels, if you can dissolve the boundaries of those channels, then teaching, the passion of teaching becomes a more pure process when you consider that every act that you engage, every interaction that you have, every opportunity that you have is one where you can be that passionate expression of opportunities for growth.
Right.
Anyone else want to share your experiences with boundaries and the opportunities for change and growth? There's I'd like to share with you a passage. Let's come back here. There we go. I'd like to share with you this from Matthew 18, verses 1 to 4. At that time the disciples came to Jesus and asked, "Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" And this was a discussion about who among them were the greatest, right? And they were trying to demark, they were trying to define who was more effective among the disciples. And Jesus called a child whom he put among them and said, "Truly I tell you, unless you change and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Whoever becomes humble like this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven." Now, I'd like to point out to you that what he is referring to here is an arrogance that we as human beings have when we try to elevate ourselves above. And the arrogance also extends to the arrogance of defining those boundaries. Remember, those boundaries are our own manufacture. Those boundaries of me, not me. Those boundaries of persona, shadow. Those memories, those boundaries of mind, body, and every other boundary that we define are actually, in the context of Jesus' quote, those are an act of arrogance. And as we have imposed these boundaries to declare that this is real and this is real, this is inside that boundary and this is outside that boundary, that declaration is an act of arrogance. And when Jesus said you must become humble like little children, what he is referring to, I think, is that we need to let go of our arrogance of defining these boundaries. We need to let go of our need to say this is me and that is not me. This is part of mind, this is part of body, this is part of my persona. I'm going to shove this other thing that I don't want to be part of me into my shadow. And so those definitions of boundaries are really acts of arrogance. So our process is one of dissolving boundaries by acknowledging that, oh, that boundary that I've declared is not really necessary. It's not really real. It's not providing me any opportunity to engage a greater sense of who I am. As I mentioned earlier, that when we declare boundaries, what we're really doing is declaring what is me versus not me. And as for each boundary that we declare, it reduces that who we think we are to the point where we just think we're this, and we look upon the universe and say that is vast, that is uncontrollable, it's chaos out there, and I don't have any control of that. Oh my God, I don't have control. Oh no. Well, that can be resolved by dissolving those boundaries. I'll share with you another passage that is one that arises in the Hindu tradition. There is a passage that is whoops. Oh, wait a minute! I didn't get that. There is a passage in the Hindu tradition, in Mahayana Buddhism. In Mahayana Buddhism, there is this concept that each sentient being is a jewel. In fact, I think that it's each component that we think is part of reality is a jewel. And that jewel is reflecting every other jewel in the universe. That the universe is filled with jewels, each jewel representing or reflecting every other jewel. And so as we try to distinguish this component from that component, if we peer deeply enough with focused perception, we see that within that jewel is the reflection of the entire universe. And so we can look upon our relationships, and we can say, if we define this boundary of this relationship, we could look at that relationship, and with a clear enough gaze, we could see that relationship is a reflection of every other relationship that we have. We can look upon a situation, and we can look with deep gazing eyes. We could reflect that situation is a reflection of every other situation in our experience. That's difficult for us to get our hands around, because we have habituated this idea that this out there is not me. This is me, that's not me. That over there is part of that, and it's distinguished from this over here that's part of that. And so these boundaries create a situation where we have conflict. We can't resolve issues that these issues, upon reflection, are really a reflection of the other issues in our lives. And for that peace that surpasses understanding, in Hinduism, there is a phrase, Devat Zim. I'm sorry. I can't remember the phrase now, but it means that what we talked about last week is I am that. I am that I am. And when we look upon each situation of conflict and we reflect and remember that I am that is part of me. We want to push it away, but that is part of me. And as we continue this habit of declaring that which is causing me pain is part of me, we start to settle into this ground of being, into this awareness that we are that which we've declared not to be us. We are that. We are that. I am that. I am. I am that. I am. Teilhard de Chardin offered us this quote. Oops. Back to... Considered in its concrete reality, the stuff of the universe cannot divide itself, but as a kind of gigantic atom, it forms in its totality the only real indivisible. The farther and more deeply we penetrate into matter by means of increasingly powerful methods, the more we are confounded by the interdependence of its parts. It is impossible to cut into this network, to isolate a portion without it becoming frayed and unraveled at the edges. And I shared with you previously the name of this symbol was the Tai Chi, but it's not. It's Taijutsu. Taijutsu, or Taijutsu. The Taijutsu is the embodiment of this idea that we are all one, even though that one comprises what we think are opposites. So the white and the black are part of the whole. Yet within the white is the black, and within the black is the white. And this idea that is really the foundation of Taoism is that we cannot separate. We can distinguish, but we cannot separate this from that it is all part of this greater awareness, this greater idea that the absolute and the relative are that there is a boundary imposed by our being in the relative. But if we want to attain the true peace that surpasses all understanding, we must recognize that I am that. I am that. I am. I am that. I am. Let's have our meditation. As we come into the awareness of the presence of unconditional love, right here, right now, as we allow ourselves to rest in this conception that we are channels of this unconditional love. We are the conduits of this unconditional love. And at the same time, each and every other in our circle, each and every other in our community, each and every other resident of our city, our state, our nation, our planet, we are each conduits of this unconditional love. And my purpose here now is to open up that valve. Allow that unconditional love to flow through us, unheeded, into this moment. Allow that unconditional love to touch each and every person in our presence, to erase the boundary of present and not present, and allow that unconditional love to flow through us into this moment. And to erase the boundaries of the moment and to allow this unconditional love to flow through us in all time. Allow this unconditional love without allocation, without stipulation or condition. We allow this unconditional love to flow through our moment, erasing the boundaries, embracing the opposite, allowing ourselves to be the ambassador of peace on earth, to be the representative of the One. And we call this ambassador the Christ self. And we erase that boundary as well. We see that this unconditional love is not separate from us, but that we are it. We are the unconditional love in expression. We are the unconditional love that is allowing the glory of this moment, of this relationship, of this presence to be who we are. We are that glory. We are that love. We are. And any modifiers that we apply to that sentence, we are, is just a boundary that we have imposed. We are. And while this realization may be fleeting, this realization may be only present in this sacred moment, we have the opportunity to be this expression, to be this essence, to be this love, whenever we choose. And when we choose, the peace of our reality embraces us, envelops us, penetrates us. We breathe in, we breathe out. And so it is.
Amen.
I'd like to share with you some music from one of our dear friends, Sue Riley. You may not know her, but you know her. Here she is.
When all your dreams are hooked on a shooting star and the star falls down, remember how great you are. You are the guiding star you need, closer than you think. Closer than you think. Don't stop now. You're closer than you think. Your day in the sun, the moment seems lost in time. When the sun seems low, remember how bright you shine. You are the only light you'll need. Closer than you think. closer than you think. Don't stop now. You're closer than you think. The road is long and you feel weary. Take one more step and you are nearly shadows of time, love that has passed you by, and your hope runs out. Give it just one more try. Love may be closer than you think, closer than you think. Closer than you think. Don't stop now. You're closer than you think. 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 Don't stop now. Don't stop now. You're closer than you think. Don't stop now. You're closer than you think.
If you'd like to support this ministry, you can do so by going to our newsletter, clicking on the first article in the newsletter, or going to our website, clicking on the donate button, website livingwaterunity.org. And you can also send a check, if you like, to my home address, 3770 Longwood Avenue. It is deposited in the church account. So we'll have our blessing of our offering with... Yes, we will. There we go. Together, please. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I give in love because I trust in God. And Doug, if you would please.
There be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, and peace that was meant to be. With God as Creator, I am and all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Please begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment engaged eternally. Let there be peace on earth. Let it begin with me.
And together, please. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And so it is. Kay, if you would, please.
As we prepare to release our circle and extinguish this flame, we honor the divine light it represents, and we carry that light within us into the world to protect us, to illuminate us, and to guide our actions.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here this morning. So, what's up in your lives? We are